Welcome to Nerd Social. I'm Nathan. So this is the second half of our conversation about our most anticipated movies of 2021. If you want to hear the first half, there's a link above the beginning of our conversation where we discuss the first 12 of our combined list. In this part of our conversation, we talk about the top 9 of our combined lists. All right, let's get into it. Next up, we have, Colin, you have your number 6, your Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah, for me, there's 2 Tom Cruise movies that are coming out. Both of them were delayed from last year. First one is Mission Impossible 7. So again, there are 7 of them. I've actually enjoyed a lot of the more recent Mission Impossible movies. My favorite being the Rogue Nation movie. So I really like that dynamic, really kind of edge of your seat thriller type of thing. Fallout, I really didn't. I watched it once. It was okay, even though Henry Cavill was in it, Superman was in it. So I did enjoy it, but not as much as Rogue Nation. So I'll be interested to see what happens in number 7. So yeah, Tom Cruise has been jumping around and running and doing motorcycle stunts ever since Mission Impossible 1. I think it came out in 96, I think. It was for a long time. And then the other Tom Cruise movie being one of the major roles that he played in the 80s, very iconic 80s movie, Top Gun. So he's back as Maverick.
My dad believed in you. I'm not gonna make the same mistake.
You know what happens to you if you go through with this. I have everything I need to have you court-martialed and dishonorably discharged.
The end is inevitable, Maverick.
What are you gonna do?
Here they come! Look in the air! Look in the air!
So that I always enjoy Top Gun a lot. The swagger, hair on fire type of rebel. So let's see what happens when he's a little bit more mature and he has to deal with recruits that are or pilots that were just like him 30-something years ago, or almost 40 years ago.
Yeah. I hope he's more mature. Man, the man's in his 50s now. My gosh, right?
Yeah.
But I'm also looking forward to both of those movies. I enjoyed the Mission Impossible movies, the more recent ones. I liked Fallout, Ghost Protocol. All of those were pretty good, especially with Christopher McQuarrie. Once Tom Cruise partnered with that guy to write the new sets of my Mission Impossible movies, I think they're definitely headed in the right direction.
Oh yeah, I believe so.
But Top Gun, yep, looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, for me, it's difficult for me to separate the man from his art a little bit. So that's why I will eventually probably see the Mission Impossible movie, because as you said, Jhon, the quality of the last couple have been good. The quality of the series the quality of the series overall isn't necessarily as good as the last couple movies. The last couple movies have been good, and so I'll probably see it eventually. But yeah, Tom Cruise is an interesting character. I never saw Top Gun, so it's not necessarily something that's going to be on. I'd have to go back and see the original movie, and I don't even know if it necessarily holds up over scrutiny. So I think that maybe that's a nostalgia play for a lot of people. But I will see Mission Impossible eventually.
Yeah, I mean, basically Top Gun is just basically Michael Bay, pre-Michael Bay, the director. I mean, it's not directed by Michael Bay, but of course Jerry Bruckheimer was in it, so that whole pre-Michael Bay type of thing.
Yeah. All right. So next on our list, at number 2 for me and number 3 for Jhon, is the Spider-Man sequel, the Spider-Man Far From Home sequel, which still doesn't have a title. But for me, there's lots of reasons why it's so high on my list. One, again, Marvel and the quality that I expect from that studio, but also everything that I'm hearing about behind the scenes. There'll be probably tie-ins with Doctor Strange. There'll be multiverse madness before even we get the multiverse madness movie. We'll get different versions of Spider-Man from different franchises. So Tobey Maguire, I think, hasn't signed on the dotted line yet, but Andrew Garfield will be in the movie. They're bringing back Jamie Foxx. They're bringing back Alfred Molina, I think, as well as Doc Ock. So yeah, I'm just interested in seeing how they're going to mash all that stuff up in like a 2-hour movie and make it make sense. I mean, apart from the Marvel multiverse within the comics. There's a Spider-Verse as well, which was what the movie was, the Spider-Verse movie was about. So Peter goes to different dimensions all the time. So I want to see how they actually juggle this in live action, because it does. I mean, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is probably one of the best superhero movies ever, and it's going to be difficult for them to top that movie. So, but I'm interested, like I said, because of Marvel's track record and their level of quality, I'm interested to see what they do.
Yeah, hot on the heels of that Into the Spider-Verse animated movie is where I think they're getting the idea to do this. And plus, it seems to be in fashion now, right? Or all the multiverse type of things in the DC universe and now in the Marvel universe. So because it's Marvel, like you said, they've got a good track record for making this all work. So I have confidence that they can. Then again, it's also Sony, so we'll see if they actually listen to Marvel. They did for the first two Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland, so hopefully it stays that way. So yeah, much anticipation for this movie, especially with the other actors of the previous generations of Spider-Man movies that we all kind of seen or grown up with, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it wasn't on my list because there's just too much that's going on. I just feel as though, because they're bringing back all the different elements from the different Spider-Man movies. They're trying to bring in Spider-Verse. They may even try to bring in Venom. There's a lot that's going on. I mean, I just having a very uneasy feeling about it because of it, but because it's more because of their track record, like you said, Jhon. I think that they're gonna do okay, but I just feel as though there's a lot there, and that's not even counting Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, because he hasn't signed yet, as you said, Nathan. So that's why it wasn't on my list, because again, we haven't seen anything yet. We've seen set photos. I don't know how they're gonna put it all together. It's almost like it could be as epic as, say, Avengers: Infinity War, but again, when we didn't know anything about Infinity War, we were like, how are we going to put all these characters together? How is it going to be possible? But they were able to do it. So who knows if Jon Watts and the Marvel team can hit lightnings twice,
Yeah, I mean, you make some good points there. I don't know if Jon Watts, even though he's competent, is as skilled as the Russo brothers, so he might not be able to pull this off. But again, he's not trying to do it by himself. He has the Marvel Studio producers behind him. And the other reason to be hesitant or at least cautious is because Sony has screwed up at least this several times before. They screwed it up in the third movie the first time around. They screwed it up even earlier. They screwed it up even earlier with the second one. They screwed it up in the second time around. So they haven't gotten past. They haven't done a third movie well yet. They did the second time they tried to do this. They did a second movie so bad that they couldn't even make a third movie. So there's Sony is still involved. So it's questionable whether or not they'll be able to pull it off. However, they also did produce Spider-Man: Far From Home without Marvel, and again, one of the best comic book movies ever. So next on the list is actually for you, Jhon, Zack Snyder's Justice League.
There was a secret chord that David played, and it pleased the Lord. Goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall. Hallelujah, hallelujah,
It didn't make my list or Colin's list.
Yeah, so this is high on my list because I'm pretty invested in what Zack Snyder's been doing, his whole vision. Am I completely sold on his whole vision? No, but I think, as with many other fans of the Release the Snyder Cut movement, they are anticipating what vision his original vision that he had for Justice League. As you all know, the theatrical version was pretty much half of it was Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon was called in after almost all of the filming had completed, but still not yet into post-production. He came in and he was called to finish the movie because Zack Snyder had to leave the movie due to the death of his daughter. And what we got into theaters was a mixed bag of a movie. Some parts good, some parts not so great. And as a whole, it just did not accomplish what everybody expected. And the box office pretty much said as much as well. So this vision here for Zack Snyder, apparently most of the filming, like 99% of it, was already completed. It's just not the version we saw in the theaters. And apparently we're getting a 4-hour cut of Justice League in this HBO Max release. So looking forward to that. More Superman, more Batman, more Aquaman, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think that for me, I loved actually Batman versus Superman. Some certain parts, I definitely think that really good battle reminded me of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, which is probably one of the most epic comic books ever. So I think that he got a lot of credit for playing Batman, and I think that for Justice League, it definitely was a downer because of the vision was kind of muddled because of Zack Snyder's tragedy. But let's see what happens with this one. I was anticipating about this when it was first announced, and I just remembered that it was, I think it was a fandom that did like HBO joke, like April Fool's joke about the Snyder cut. And so how they were also saying like, oh, they're going to try to up HBO Max subscriptions because of the Snyder cut, and lo and behold, they put it on HBO Max. So it's kind of interesting to kind of see it from that standpoint. Yeah, let's just see how all those different parts kind of come together and just kind of fix up what happened in Justice League.
Yeah. I mean, I'm mostly interested in the Snyder Cut based upon more of the like backroom Hollywood business stuff that's associated with this story, like how they were able to, like fans were able to push a studio to basically recut a movie and re-release a movie. It's never really happened before. I'm less interested in the movie as it is. I don't hate Zack Snyder, but he's not my favorite creative. His vision doesn't necessarily align with what I'm interested in all the time. I mean, I like some of his movies. I liked Watchmen. I tried to like Batman versus Superman. I paid $18. I paid $18 twice to see that movie because it's like, I can't not like this movie. But I remember I was in grad school. I remember going to the theater in Harlem twice to see that movie. And yeah, I will see it. But the other aspect of this is that I can't say that I anticipate having to sit to watch a 4-hour movie. It's a 4-hour movie.
You don't have to do it all in one sitting.
This is true. I will see it. I will definitely see it. But it seems like a lot of work. I don't know. I've sat through like a Lord of the Ring marathons, like the extended version. So just take breaks. I guess is the plan there.
Just keep some empty bottles handy. There you go.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he actually did, because I will say, similar to what you said, Colin, I liked even though I did not like Batman versus Superman for various reasons, I liked it better than I did Justice League. Justice League was a disaster.
Oh, of course.
It was a mess.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie more than once because there was no reason to see it more than once.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
So, and with all that has come out about how Joss Whedon treated the cast on that movie, I'm interested to see what Zack Snyder's vision actually looks like, given that he was the one who was probably in the casting decisions to actually pick people for those roles. I know Ray Fisher definitely wants to see the light of day, because he's not going to be doing any more work with Warner Brothers, but I'm sure he would like to everyone to see what he could have done, or what the project could have been had it been realized by Zack Snyder. So I'm interested to see his part, if it's fleshed out more, if he's given more to do in the 4-hour cut.
Yeah. speaking of Ray Fisher, also like I'm interested to see what Wonder Woman does. I mean, there was stuff online that said that she was not doing any reshoots or anything like that. So after 1984, this is the next movie that she's going to be in, and so what happens with Wonder Woman? How is that going to play out? That would be very interesting to watch as well.
At the very least, it will be interesting. I hope it's good, but it should be interesting. 4 hours. It's a bold move. The next on the list is actually you, Colin. You have the Beatles Get Back.
So what you're going to see is it's not a trailer. It's like a montage of moments that we pulled from throughout the 56 hours of footage that we have.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Go on, Al.
Yeah, so this is very interesting because in many ways I was intrigued by the fact that it's actually directed. I think Peter Jackson from Lord of the Rings is really involved in it, and so there's footage from back in the day with the Beatles. If you've ever seen the documentary A Hard Day's Night, is very fascinating documentary style. So would it be something like that, or would it be just a straight up documentary? So, or Hard Day's Night is pretty much like a mockumentary in some ways. So just interesting to see how they're going to play it out. I saw a preview of it on Disney Plus. I'm not sure if it's going to be on Disney Plus, but definitely being a fan of the Beatles, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the Beatles as well, so I'll definitely watch it. It wasn't on my top 10 list, but it is something that I will likely watch.
Honestly, before I had to do some pre-production of this video, I didn't even know that it was in existence. But I did I did have to pull clips, and I saw that Peter Jackson was attached. So now I am interested because I'm not a big Beatles fan. I mean, Beatles is part of like sort of the cultural zeitgeist. So you for the last 50 years, so you've heard Beatles songs, but I'm not like a big Beatles fan. But because Peter Jackson is attached, I'm interested to see what he does with the property, and also he has a tendency, as you saw with the Lord of the Rings, things that he's a fan of, really bringing out the best in the property. So he was a fan of the Lord of the Rings, and he really put all of himself into those trilogies, and also I guess the spin-offs, the Hobbit. So we'll see what he comes up with. So I'm interested in seeing it just because of Peter Jackson's involvement. The next is on my list, and is my number one on my list, is Judas and the Black Messiah.
I knew we'd make noise. I just thought it'd be in the streets.
The Black Panthers are the single greatest threat to our national security. Our counterintelligence program must prevent the rise of a Black Messiah.
You can go home.
What do you want?
Get close to Hampton.
Neutralize him by any means necessary.
We can heal this whole city.
You ain't tell me it was gonna be like this. These ain't no terrorists.
Anywhere there's people, there's power.
Which is coming out, I think, this week. This is a Ryan Coogler produced film. He's not the director. Let me get the director's name. Shaka King is the director. This is his second film. This is a movie about Fred Hampton, one of the leaders of the Black Panther Party. Danny Kaluuya is playing Fred Hampton. Lakeith Stanfield, again, showing up in one of the movies that I want to see, because he's also in the Western movie that I was talking about, is in the movie. He plays William O'Neill, who is the Judas in the title of the movie. So the movie is basically about how the FBI surveyed and infiltrated the Black Panthers and destroyed a movement where the Black Panthers were trying to create a coalition between black and brown and white people of the same socioeconomic status. This is after the civil rights era, where a lot of civil rights leaders died and Kennedy died. The FBI came in and disrupted what would have been the next leaders in the civil rights struggle, and set back American progress, really, because we can see that we didn't deal with those issues, and the result is basically what we saw at the beginning of this year with a riot and an insurrection at the capital of the U.S. So I'm interested to see, just because of who's attached, the actors attached, and also it's Ryan Coogler producing the movie. I'm really interested. That's why it's top of my list.
Yeah, I like the actors in there. Weren't they both in Get Out as well, right? The two lead actors.
Yes, they were
together.
They were in
and
Get Out,
yeah, thought so. So yeah, it wasn't in my top 10, but I'll definitely be watching it. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't in my top 10 either. But like I mentioned earlier in our segment here, it's definitely a really good time to be interested or invested in Black movies. So definitely. Again, this month's Black History Month. So that's out there. That's in my queue of waiting and wanting to see, because there's so much talent right now, and it needs to be celebrated, definitely.
Yeah. The next on our list here is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So it's number 3 on my list, number 3 on your list, Colin, and also and number 1 on your list, Jhon. So I'll let you actually start off this conversation since it's your number 1.
Yeah, it's number 1 for me because I grew up with the Shang-Chi comics. Being a huge fan of Bruce Lee, I think that was the idol for many young Asian boys. Shang-Chi was obviously a ripoff of Bruce Lee, and so anything I could consume with Bruce Lee materials, I did, and Shang-Chi was one of them. So the Master of Kung Fu, especially being put up front and center in the next phase of the Marvel Universe, and a mostly Asian cast. I think it's an all Asian cast. I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it, and it's my number 1 anticipated movie for this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I think that definitely very anticipated. I really share your sentiments, Jhon. Bruce Lee is such a big icon, not only in the Asian community, but also in the Black community as well. I like to mention. Mm-hmm. So very interested in interprets this type of genre. There's been a lot of rumors that it's going to be about kind of like similar to Mortal Kombat or similar to Enter the Dragon, which is Bruce Lee's final film. So definitely a lot of things to look forward to. I'm actually also looking forward to the villain played by Tony Leung. So he's a big Hong Kong actor. He played Leonardo DiCaprio's character in the Hong Kong version of The Departed. So The Departed was based on a Hong Kong movie called Infernal Affairs, which Tony Leung was in, and he played in that movie.
Yeah, I like you guys. Looking forward to this. It's not top of my list, but it's number 3 on my list, so it's very high. Again, another Marvel film, so looking forward to see what Marvel does with this property. The actors attached to it. Awkwafina's in this one as well.
Yes, she is.
So is Michelle Yeoh. So I will show up for anything that Michelle Yeoh is in. So the lead, actually, I forget what his name is.
She is in everything.
Michelle?
Yeah, are they like stealing from like Crazy Rich Asians or something? Like
I know.
Just I think
it's
Crazy Rich Asians taking all the cash.
Pretty much. Yeah. I think it's Simu Liu.
Simu,
yeah. Simu Liu.
So I know him from
He was in The Expanse.
He was in The Expanse? I didn't know.
He was in for one.
He was in Kim's Convenience, yes.
Kim's Convenience is where I know him from, and I love that show. So it'd be interesting to see him play a more serious role. I assume it's going to be more serious. I mean, he could be a Tony Stark kind of character, so he could be making jokes all the time. I don't know how they're going to write him, but it'd be interesting to see what they do, and if it's going to be a tournament style sort of thing. Because I've seen this character from time to time rendered in animation, and they have had like tournament storylines. So I want to. I'm interested to see what they actually do based upon the character, the actors that they have attached, and also, like I said, just the Marvel of it all. And I think this is an important tent post character for them building the next Avengers. So they're probably going to put a lot of effort into it. Just looking at the set photos of the basic village that they built has gotten me really interested in what they render on screen. Mm-hmm. All right, next we have Colin in the Heights for you.
It's a story of a block that was disappearing.
I am Usnavi, and you probably never heard my name. Morning, Usnavi. I'm making deals, but guess what? What? You still ain't got no skills.
A dream isn't some sparkly diamond. It's rough.
Yeah, I'm a street light choking on the heat. The world spins around while I'm frozen to my seat. DRPR, we are non-stop heights.
That's your number 4.
Yeah, so this is the new Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I think he's really heavily involved in it. Tells a story of people that are living in Washington Heights in New York. So having lived in New York for a few years, it's definitely something that I'm very interested in, kind of seeing that type of experience that's there, written in a musical. And we all know Lin-Manuel Miranda is like big right now, Hamilton, and with other things that are involved with Disney as well, Mary Poppins Returns. So just seeing him in another genre or another vehicle is definitely very interesting, and looking forward to the music that's involved, and also the up-and-comers as well. As I mentioned a lot, probably going to be a few up-and-comers in this list as well that you're probably going to hear about over the next 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this wasn't on my list in my top 10. However, it's one that I have heard about because of Miranda. And it's been a while since I've seen musicals. I like musicals, just I haven't seen some of the more recent ones, but it's definitely one that I will add to my list.
Yeah, I had the privilege of seeing Hamilton on Broadway back in 2016. So yeah, I that's the first time I heard about Lin-Manuel. And that's when I did a sort of a deep dive and heard and found out that In the Heights was something he did previous to Hamilton. So I'm aware of the property. I actually didn't know until recently that they were going to do a film of it. So I'm interested in it. Lin-Manuel, beyond being a great creator, seems to be just like a nice person, so just kind of rooting for him to do well. So yeah, I'll definitely see it, and I like musicals, so hopefully they capture what was so popular about the musical on Broadway.
Yeah, and I think it's also on HBO Max, so you definitely stream it.
Yeah,
as it goes on theaters as well.
Yeah. Next is Dune.
Happening to me. Do you often dream things that happen just as you dreamed them?
Yes.
You have proven you can rule yourself. Now you must learn to rule others. Arrakis is a death trap.
Let's fight like demons.
An animal caught in a trap will gnaw off its own leg to escape.
I know you. Fear is the mind killer.
I think.
So I look at movies that are kind of like mysterious in a ways, and there's a lot of mystery revolving around it. Star-studded cast. It has Oscar Isaac. It has Jason Momoa. And also the story is kind of like out there in some ways. So it really reminded me of, say, Fifth Element. The Valerian movie, I didn't really see it, but it had that kind of Valerian type of feel to it. So I know that there's an older version that was okay, but some people said it's really bad. So I don't know. And the director is a very well-known director as well. So there's just a lot of intrigue in my because of there's some hype because of the stars of the cast, but also there's some intrigue, and then there's also some mystery as well, because you don't know what it's really all about. And there's like all these type of genres that's mixed in. There's spaceships, there's like epic wars, so it's kind of like maybe Lord of the Rings, and also sci-fi. So lots of different genres kind of mixing together is always very intriguing.
Yeah, the Dune story, I remember from the 80s, it was bad. It wasn't great.
Okay.
And they did try to reboot it with a sci-fi, back when sci-fi was actually spelled instead of the Y, the I's on that TV channel. It had a mixed reaction in that as well. Definitely has, Colin, like you said, it's got that French sci-fi style to it, with the production, the set, and the costumes and all that. Mm-hmm. And I like Denis Villeneuve, the director, a lot of his movies, so looking forward to this one as well. Again, it wasn't in my top 10, but it's going to be on HBO Max, and I'll definitely be watching it.
Yeah, because it's streaming, I will watch it. I don't know if it's something that I would have gone to the theaters to see, but Villeneuve, I think his name is the director. I wasn't necessarily a Blade Runner fan, but the movie that he did, the most recent one, Blade Runner 20... 95 or something,
42,
2042.
2042, yeah.
I enjoyed that movie. The reason that it doesn't make my list is similar to what you were saying, Colin, about like Spider-Man Far From Home. All the things that you're talking about, all those elements, I don't know how they're going to work.
Okay, that's interesting.
I don't know how they're going to work. We'll see, because I watched the trailer and it's a little inscrutable to me what's going on. And the other thing is, I've heard Frank Herbert's Dune is respected, is so highly regarded and respected within sci-fi, but some people just say that it's unfilmable. This is why they've had issues with it every time they tried to film it. Frank Herbert's Dune has influenced Star Wars and lots of other things, and Lucas will tell you that. So, and it has a great place in sci-fi history, but I don't know, given the idiosyncrasies and the arcane aspects of the text, whether or not it can be filmed in a compelling, profitable way, which might be great given the fact that it's going to go to HBO Max, so it doesn't necessarily have to be as profitable as it might have had to be if it was going to be released in theaters. I mean, it'll be released in theaters as well, but so I'm interested in seeing it, but it seems like a lot going on there.
Yeah, Villeneuve did Blade Runner 2049 is what it was.
2049.
And Dune is... Yeah, and Dune is very much closer to fantasy than it is sci-fi. So a lot of the story, the way Herbert wrote his Dune saga, is it tries not to reference a lot of technology, although we see a lot of strange and fantasy-like technologies in it, but it definitely focuses a lot more on the space fantasy side than it does on any type of sci-fi. Similar to well, it is definitely beyond Star Wars. Star Wars focusing more on the fantasy aspects than more of the sci-fi stuff, but Dune is definitely way more into the fantasy than it is sci-fi.
Yeah. So last we want to talk about Matrix. So it didn't make my list, but it made number 4 in your list, Jhon, and it's near number 1, Colin. So I'll let you guys take that conversation, and I'll just talk about probably why it didn't make my list. So go ahead. I guess, Colin, you want to start since it's number 1 on your list?
Sure. I think that for me, The Matrix, when I first saw it, I was in high school. I was graduating from high school at that. Everyone was talking about The Matrix. Everybody. It was actually my first DVD was The Matrix. So The Matrix is a very, very deep type of meaning for me because it was at a time when I was still, rite of passage, teenage angst and stuff like that. Fortunately, it was actually kind of perverted in some ways because of a school shooting back in those days. So it did kind of lose that type of appeal with some audiences. But at the same time, it was definitely revolutionary, full of time with the way that they shot it. Keanu Reeves went to another strat. Now legendary cult status. Now he's like a legend in everything that he does and touches, basically because of The Matrix. Even though Bill and Ted was very good back when he did it back in the day, and Point Break and stuff, but The Matrix really defined who he was. Carrie Ann Moss as well, defined who she was. Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, that kind of Yoda-like character, but cooler in some ways. And so The Matrix, and then just like the whole mind-blown type of idea of what The Matrix is just so amazing, and it's just a wonderful world, a wonderful story in terms of that. Of course, the movies weren't as appealing to people, but it has a very special place in my heart because it's one of my all-time favorites. So I'm interested to see what happens in this movie. 20, almost 25 years since the first Matrix happened. What's going to happen in this one? So that's what I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah, who knew that a movie derived from anime, Asian martial arts movies it turned out influencing other movies for I don't know how many generations now. People have copied the wire fu, people have copied the bullet time effects, and even the storytelling just based on action scenes that move the story along. It revolutionized a lot of the storytelling and movie making of that time by the Wachowski brothers. Now the Wachowski sisters, by the way. And so I'm looking forward to part 4 of this. Part 2 and 3, they were not as great as the original. 3 being the worst, I think. But going back to the world of the Matrix, hopefully it's a good story that we can all get reinvested in.
Yeah. One other thing is that in terms of all-time villains, I mean, who would have thought, the biggest all-time villains ever, I would have to say, because of the way that he approaches to it and how very sinister, very evil he is, that guy. And especially that part in Matrix 3, I know, Jhon, you said it's not that good, but like he takes over everybody. And it's just like, my word, that's just like very, very chilling and scary in many ways.
And don't get me wrong, I love this series as a whole. There are some down moments in parts 2 and 3, but I don't think Hugo Weaving is going to be back, Colin, not to burst your bubble there.
Unfortunately.
So
that's going to suck.
That's unfortunate. He's not going to be there. So we're going to get a new villain, whoever it's going to be.
So that's a good segue into why it's probably not on my list. There are a couple. So everything you said, Colin, I agree with. I can't pretend it's not like a large cultural influence on me. It wasn't a big part of my childhood. I loved the first Matrix movie, the second one and the third one. Some diminishing returns there. I own the Animatrix on DVD, so I was definitely into the series. However, only one of the Wachowskis is going to be directing this movie. Hugo Weaving isn't coming back. Morpheus isn't coming back either, right? They're not bringing back Lawrence Fishburne.
No, he's not, which is tragic.
So I mean, they're just because they've gotten worse and worse. The two creatives that started the franchise aren't the creative minds behind this one. A lot of the characters that I liked, like you said, Agent Smith in the first movie, he kind of made that movie with Keanu. Them two playing off of each other. Hugo Weaving isn't coming back, and Morpheus isn't going to be there. So it's something that I will eventually see, because just like all the Warner Brother movies, this is a slate of movies that will be showing up on HBO Max, and I have HBO Max. We're paying for it anyway, but that's why it's not top of my list, because I have those concerns about it. Even though The Matrix was very important to me in my childhood, and also in my cultural upbringing when I was a kid, I enjoy the series as a whole, and the first movie specifically is probably one of my favorite movies ever, which is why I'm disappointed to say that it's not something that I'm looking forward to. But for the aforementioned reasons, that's why it's not high on my list. But on that somewhat down note, that's the end of our list. So we want to hear from you guys. What are you looking forward to in 2021? Comment down below, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.